All right, we are live now. Apologies for any of the background noises. And I just want to say thank you for anyone who's tuning in today. We're here to talk about something that's really important, something that has been a pressing issue for the longest time. And I feel like the more conversations we have about it, the better it'll be for everybody around us. So, we're going to be talking about real beauty and what beauty means today. And I just want to introduce our panel of speakers for the day. All right. So let me just start with Danushka Kodikara, who happens to be a national powerlifting champion, and he's also a strength and motivational speaker. Then we also have Shuaib Jabbar, who is a co-founder of Kasian Fitness, and he's a strength and conditioning coach. All right. And we have Saritha Irugallbandara, who happens to be the social media analyst of hashtag Generation. Kalpanee Gunawardana, who is a model, a small business owner, and an advocate for diverse representation in media. And last but not least, Nirosha Jagodarachchi, who happens to be the CEO of British Cosmetics. Thank you so much. First, let me say that thank you so much for being here. It means a lot to us that you took time off your day to be a part of this conversation. All right. So let me just first start off with something that I think we should get over with. All right. Uh, Let me just put things into perspective. Now, when you say beauty, all right, it's a very vast term. It's used by so many people in so many different ways. So I would like to ask each of you, all right, what does beauty mean to you? Do you think it's something that deals with external appearance, or is it just the intrinsic value? I'm just going to start off with Kalpani. What do you think about this?
I mean, I would love to say that it is a subjective preference and that we are not influenced by external factors, but that's not our reality, is it? From the time we're born, we are being fed with information as to what's appealing, what's beautiful, or this is a norm, this is accepted, this sound is great, this is art. So I don't think that we can say that it's an instinctive sort of understanding. I think it is very much influenced by the outside world, and we can't say that it is an objective sort of thing that we come up with. And that's where I think we're having this conversation as to what are these external factors which influence as to how we view what is beautiful or what is appealing.
Yeah, that is very true. It makes a lot of sense when you put it like that. I'm supposed to call Danushka Cody now. So, Cody, what do you have any thoughts on this? Just to kick
I
things off.
yeah, I agree with Kalpani about the fact that how that there are external forces which does affect what beauty stands for. But also which I've understood is we've learned how being beautiful or beauty has evolved from the past few years. Like it keeps, I don't know how it changes specifically, but I've learned like there is always a specific type of beauty where each and every one of us recognize as. But I personally want to tell everyone is just that I believe that internally your heart and soul beauty is something way more sustainable than anything which can create like an external outwards. So I think internal beauty is something which cannot be copied and which is very, very rare to find. So I think that's what beauty which comes from my end. So yeah.
Yeah, that is very true. Internal beauty is your own thing
Yeah,
at the
but
end of the
but
day.
I mean
Yeah.
I respect the whole external point of view, how beauty, like, I mean, maybe that's a certain I won't say it's a measurement, but majority does come into a certain understanding that might be a certain measurement of beauty where you can okay, if you look this in such a way. But I would never want people to be influenced in a way such as like that. We are all beautiful in so many different ways, so that's what I believe in.
That is true. That is true. I mean, that's a very, very, very positive way of looking at the world. Thank you for that. Now, Sarita, all right, as one of the social media analysts of hashtag Generation that deals with problems and stigmas of this sort, what do you believe beauty is to you?
Sorry about that. Well, in 2 words, I would say beauty is first and foremost a construct, and second, beauty is currency. I think the word construct perfectly encapsulates what Kalpanee and Cody just described about what beauty is. Constructs change, they evolve, and beauty is inherently, the way we know it right now, mainstream beauty, the way we know it, is inherently linked to capitalism and therefore colonialism. That's why we call them colonial beauty standards. So it's a construct, which is why beauty is also quite structural and systemic. That's why beauty standards have very structural effects. Second, I would say, as much as we don't want to admit it, beauty is currency. Pretty gets you places, right? Pretty gets you places. And if whenever beauty constructs change, whenever beauty standards change, you know, if you're in that moment, that time, and you have the right data, the right skin color, and someone is willing to pay you, you know, someone is willing to capitalize on that, then you made it. So beauty is currency. And I, like Kalpanee said, in an ideal world, I would like to think of beauty as intrinsic value. But the way the world is set up, that is not the case. And part of dismantling current constructs of beauty has to, I personally think, has to move away from focusing on the body as a whole and move more towards accepting the way we are, the way we look, you know, our skin tones, our weight, our hair, just accepting it. You don't necessarily have to love it, you know, but you also don't have to feel guilty about not loving it. You just have to accept it. And that way you move away from this the hyper focus on the body, and you move more towards, oh, people have intrinsic value because they are people. So that's my perception of beauty. That's how it has evolved over the years, and that is where it is right now.
Good to know. I would love to talk more about it. So let's get down to it once we get through the first question. Nirosha, yes. What do you believe, according to you? I mean, as a giant in the beauty industry, I'm pretty sure British Cosmetics comes across this particular situation as well. Do you have any thoughts to add on to this?
Well, hi. Thank you for inviting me to the forum, and I'm sorry for the slight interruption, but I think this discussion is very timely. Of course, we have, as cosmetic companies, we also kind of try to deviate from the fact that beauty is natural. It's beyond boundaries. But as a company who is leading the cosmetic industry, we have always advocated our customers that beauty is something natural, that it's your choice. It's your choice how you want to be looking at yourself and how you want to gain your confidence. It's your choice to look pretty. It's your choice to look nice. It's not something that you would want to do just because your boyfriend says so, your husband says so. It's what you have to think of yourself. So what has happened here is, I think we are partly our family, from our family time itself, this perception of your body beautiful, your outer appearance had played a major role. I could remember, even from the very first day from our family, I would say we have been victims of certain things. Like some people would say, maybe the parents would say, oh, you're too skinny, or you're too backward, you're too dark, you've gone under the sun, you've become too dark. Why are you too skinny? Why are you not like her? Why can't you grow your hair? So those are little things that come into our little mind when we were small. Okay, the beauty perception is like, okay, a fair person is the pretty one, dark person is not so pretty, fat one is the most acceptable. So I am really discouraging any youth to feel like that, because we always say beauty is what you want you to be. It's nothing what the other person thinks of you. If you feel comfortable, if you feel beautiful inside yourself, it reflects us outside. So as a cosmetic company, I personally believe in the fact that cosmetic is to enhance your beauty, but not to sort of make you fair just because the other person is fair, just because the society has labeled you to be fair, and it goes like on and on. So we are fighting for female and male in big time. So to say that your beauty is what you feel you want to look like, not just anybody for you to think of. So yeah, so I think we are quite happy with what we are promoting our customers in that perspective.
That's really good to know, specifically in an industry where, they tend to profit off your insecurities. To know that you have a goal like that is really nice.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. This is something that has been labeled in all of the cosmetic industry, saying, okay, fairness within 5 days, and you can get yourself a job or you can win the world, which is not the case. It's very wrongly canvassed, and I think everybody should fight against it, and it should start from home. This is what I personally feel.
Yeah, I mean, I have I would strongly agree with that. All right, so before we get into all of these issues that were brought in, Shuaib, what, in your perspective, is beauty? Is it intrinsic or is it external?
Well, firstly, I think beauty in itself is the diversity in the answers that everybody gave here, right? Each person had a completely different approach at it. And sometimes it's shocking, like we're all coming here to discuss about one particular topic. And you'd think that as the panelists, we'd be, at one sort of level or have a similar answer. But it's so beautiful actually to see the diversity in the answers that everybody gave. And I think my answer is also a bit different to what everybody said. But at the same time, I do accept what the panelists said before me as well. And for me, beauty is everything to do with effort and the process. Right? Because I believe that in whatever it might be it in beauty, be it in your personal goals in life, where you want to be who you are, we all start somewhere, right? We all start somewhere. And there's always elements you can change. There's always elements you can't change. And where we normally lose is where we chase elements we cannot change, right? And if we have the wrong motivation, right? If the wrong factors are driving us, I believe that for me, beauty is firstly beginning to accept where you are, who you are, what you already have, right? A little bit of purposeful ambition, right? Purposeful ambition. There is nothing wrong in you wanting to alter the way you look if it is for the right purpose, which is what pretty much, the previous speakers said before me. And then I think that you need to find the beauty, not in the acceptance, not in the end goal, but in the process. That is my belief, and that's what I think beauty is.
That was beautifully said. I feel like we're going to be using the word beauty a lot in this conversation, but it was. And like you said, all the panelists are having different approaches. So this is going to be a very interesting conversation. All right. So just to kick off the conversation with the role that the media plays. Now, like Saritha spoke about, and Kalpanee as well, how media seems to be promoting a false narrative onto us, on what beauty should be, on what our beauty standards should be. All right. And kind of have created this ecosystem where they profit off of our insecurities. All right. So I just really want to know, all right, what stances each of you have on that particular aspect of things, because this is something, because the media is not something that one person can control, specifically in a digital age. All right. So let's start with Kalpanee.
Thanks. If I may, I'm gonna dissect faults and insecurities, right? If you look at society, especially given, I can only speak about my experience, right? And I'm very privileged in a lot of senses. And like what Saritha was saying, I happen to fit a certain body type, which is currently, in the fashion sense, you would call it in vogue. I am a certain size, I'm a certain height. I have thick hair. I have a lot of things going for me, right? Given that I fit into that mold, the only thing that sort of where I feel prejudiced against or discriminated against is color. And so within those limitations, because as I said, I can only speak about what I experience and what I know, is this false? And like Saritha said, it's a social currency. Being pretty, and especially when it comes to color, being fair, it is a currency in the sense that it affords you social mobility. It is an economic aspect as well, whether it's the kind of job that you get. Are you front office? Can you appear in media? Do you get better marriage prospects? Open, any one of our newspapers that advertises for proposals, right? And we understand that this is it false? In the sense of take the advertising that Maliban put out, I think about 2 or 3 years ago. And when there was an uproar on social media, what the advertising agents said was that we are talking about a bias that already exists within society. We are only amplifying what exists. We are not creating something. And then the second thing I would go on to, like you said, is it an insecurity or is it a construct? And as Saritha was saying earlier, these are formed from the time we're born, and then Nirosha elaborated on it as well. From your parents might say it, society is saying it. Are these false? Are these insecurities? But then again, if it's just your nuclear sort of family, if it's just your mother, if it's just your father, if it's the cousin, if it's your first love, the boy that you had a crush on, if it's only these people that are dictating what you should look like, what is attractive, then it's limited. It's within our control in a certain sense, because these are all actors that we can sort of take as human beings and be like, okay, that's what you feel, but this is what I feel, and I'm going to move on with life. But when it comes to media and when it comes to actors with billions of rupees to funnel into as to what you should buy, then it is driven by capitalism. I mean, Fair and Lovely was discussed widely over the last couple of months, and there's plenty of reports. I mean, you just have to Google as to how this bias was observed, but need and demand was created to sell a product. They would go into rural villages and put up dramas where they say, oh, you look like the moon, without any particular link to Fair and Lovely. And then you link it to Fair and Lovely later on because the change agent within that village happens to be using Fair and Lovely. And then she would talk about the benefits of Fair and Lovely later on within that group. And then she may get a scholarship. So these are actors. I mean, even in Sri Lanka, the Fair and Lovely Foundation is an academic institution, which is a partnership with the Sri Lanka Ministry of Education. So this is how you have various actors which are now beyond our control. These are macro factors. So you can't say that, I mean, not that you can't say that. I would very strongly disagree that these are either false narratives or that these are insecurities that are being played on. There are much larger actors, which is when we become helpless. And I think Saritha would elaborate further on the intersectionality of how all of these things are linked, with its gender, with its color, with its caste, with its race. It's not something that is within your control purely. And I will elaborate on that later when we discuss, like you said, on, let's say, self-love as a topic. It simply isn't within our control. Thank you.
That is true. That is a very scary notion, but I guess it is the reality of the situation. Saritha, if you may, please.
Right. The way I understand it through both my work and my own process of unlearning and learning, I would say the easiest place to start is if you understand media as the most powerful dissemination tool of capitalism, right? First of all, because whoever controls the media also controls the means of production, because capitalism determines what we like, what we consume, and media decides what they promote, right? So these are two sides of the same coin. And I think when we talk about media, we also need to move away from our traditional understanding of media, because with social media, I think it's essential that we kind of stop construing media in the traditional sense, because right now, media is everything. It's everywhere. It's on our phones, it's on our laptops, it's when we open a computer, it's when we speak to a friend and you see an ad on Instagram for the same thing that you were talking about, right? Media is everywhere. You cannot escape it. And the second thing I would point to, and this is maybe a little bit of a digression, but I think is relevant. When it comes to beauty and beauty standards, we all know that companies capitalize, with no pun intended, capitalize on what is trending, on movements that try to dismantle the very same colonial beauty standards that have existed since time immemorial, right? So for example, a good example I can think of is when Rihanna released her Fenty beauty line. And then I, for the first time in my life as a brown woman, could find a foundation shade that exactly matched my skin tone without having to do the mixing thing that we do, right? And she's a Black woman, and she did that for everyone. And immediately afterwards, all the other major brands decided, oh, we could do that. We could make money off of this, loving your dark skin and Black girl magic. We could make money off of that. Then there's fashion brands that have a separate plus size line that are inclusive sizes, but they don't go beyond a size 20. So these are not, capitalism does not care about bodies or serving bodies that it has never existed to cater to, right? Capitalism wants to capitalize on whatever is trending. And I think when we talk about beauty and media, we need to talk about social media and how beauty standards are spoken about in social media. It has a lot of influence, right? And again, I am not at all shading any influencer or any activist on social media whose platform they use to promote body positivity and body neutrality, whichever it is. But we have to agree that much like with any capitalistic structure, there's people profiting off the labor of people without giving them due credit, right? Which is why even when you look at, if you look at the body positivity hashtag on Instagram, you will be met with size 12, 10 white women, right? With a little bit of abs here and a little bit of cellulite, and they're bending over and taking a picture and they're like, look at my tummy roll, I am so fat, you can love yourself too. And I'm like, except that's not what the movement is about. Your body is already accepted. Your body already, like, capitalism already makes clothes for you, does not discriminate you if you look for a job, does not discriminate you when you go to the doctor, right? No one's going to tell you that your diseases are because you're fat and send you home and then you die of a chronic illness. That's not going to happen. So there is this effacing of key actors and people who needed the most within these mainstream movements because of media and how social media empowers people. And I think I actually had a personal situation with this where a local influencer whose platform is all about, goodness and kindness. When someone suggested he speak to me and another plus size influencer to talk about body positivity, his words were, ew, they're losers. Why would I speak to them? And instead, I saw that panel later, and it was a girl that was significantly smaller. And I'm not saying smaller women or smaller men, smaller people cannot talk about body positivity. I'm not saying white women can't talk about body positivity. I'm not saying able-bodied people can't talk about body positivity. I am saying there is this vicious cycle of certain people capitalizing on the labor of the people who came before us, who established these movements, to make sure everyone has intrinsic value and is treated with respect and dignity, regardless of whether they're fat, whether they're skinny, whether they're Black, brown, white, whether they're able-bodied, whether they're straight, trans, cis, none of these things, right? So I think we need to be very careful when we talk about media and capitalism, where we should really move away from this traditional construction of media, because media is also whoever is capitalizing on whatever is trending at the moment. So that's my answer to your question.
That was a very in-depth look at what is really going on, and I think it's important to understand that
Let me stuck, right?
We lost Natmi.
Oh
Does
no.
anybody from the audience, do you have any questions meanwhile, maybe? I'm stepping in because Natmi is
There
missing.
is
Unless
a
there's somebody from Chokolaate.
there is a there is a question. Uh, oh. Chocolat, they are hosting. Shall we look at the question?
Yeah. How do you
Yeah.
believe we address the performativity versus real activism if it gets at least something done?
That is a tough question.
Yeah. Should we start with Nirosha? Meanwhile, I've
Yeah.
basically taken over moderator duties, so now.
By the way, guys, your answers for the previous question was on point. You guys were on fire.
Oh, thank you.
Like
Well, very few, yeah.
I personally, I mean, trust me, guys. You guys were on absolute fire, on information wise and everything. And I kind of like learned the fact that things are pretty serious. Like I'm a person who's like most of the time will like away hidden from all these media, even though I'm an Instagram freak. But you guys gave details, information, and the fact that you guys are giving straight up facts is super stuff. And I am grateful that I've heard all these information. It's good for my knowledge as well. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Danushka.
Thank
Natmi's
you.
back.
Thank you, Danushka.
yes, I'm so sorry. Something happened to my connectivity. All right. So where were we? We were discussing the effect of media on the image that is created when it comes to what your body ideals are. And I think it's important with that we talk a bit about how gender comes into this as well, because we were looking at intersectionality earlier on, and I feel like since we do have two members of the uh, uh, weightlifting community, if I would say so, here to just give us light into what pressures mostly maybe men would feel, because when you say beauty, we tend to focus a lot on female beauty standards because that is what is being promoted mostly, right? So I would just really want to know your thoughts, Danushka, if you may.
Um, the most of the questions which I've faced is it's how would I say it? It's mostly the people who wants to like how am I to lose weight? How am I to lose weight? Is like just like how Kalpanee said, like there's like a 5 day way 5 days to get fair or something like that. Like it may be a weight loss, it may be any fitness or any exercise pattern or anything. It is a lifestyle people need to get adapted to. Maybe weight loss or weight gain, whatever it is, people think weight loss is the reason, but the real reason why a weight gain, like I mean, you gain an absolute number of weight is because of the indiscipline, or maybe the fact that their lifestyle is not according to what they want to achieve. A lot of people do weight loss as they take weight loss as a disease. It's like they're facing a problem. But as a coach, what I try to do with the most of the athletes or the client I face is I tell them to change their lifestyle. It is the
Okay.
lifestyle which needs to be changed. And answering the previous question, if I would say the fact that media is an external force, and I think this is also a platform such as media where we can put into, where we are educating so much of whoever who's viewing right now. We are educating. Now this is a platform where we can change people in the right way, no matter how much of negative media or whatever the media which is creating something which we do not like, we can change the whole outcome from platforms like this. And so that's coming back to the question. I think mainly what males have been facing is the fact that they want a good physique. A physique is what they think that's their mental happiness. That's like they think that's a permanent happiness, having a good physique. But they need to change their lifestyle to be better than who they are. A physique does not define who you are. It's something way more. So that's my perception or opinion to your question. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's very important because we often tend to look at ourselves based on our external factors and value ourselves accordingly,
Yeah,
which,
and I want to
yeah.
be very real.
Mm.
I have tried Fair and Handsome when I was a kid. I want to be very real. I have tried it because I have been influenced by it. Because
Yeah.
I mean, I used to be a rugby player. I used to be a cricketer, and it's like just like being fair is what I mean, I was in school, that influenced me, and I used to use Fair and Handsome, and it what happened was I got a bad rash all over my face. But I didn't. I mean, I'm just being very honest, because the reason is I am very allergic to the slightest thing, but I
Mm.
wasn't aware of it because I
Mm.
was a kid. So I was like, what, in grade six, 6 or 7. So I wasn't aware of it. So I personally used it. So I never knew that I was going to be allergic to anything. So then only, because like I wasn't educated about it. I didn't have platforms like this, whereas where there are so much of information right here.
Mm.
There's so much of educated people right here to come and tell, hey, Cody, do not do this. The reason is you are enough to this world. You do not have to be fair. You do not have to, I mean, like, you do not have to be extraordinary, because you are already fine, and you are here for a reason, which doesn't have to be for anything that you have to be fair or tall. Some people ask me, Kodia, how do I grow tall? There is no way. I mean, I have no way on how I can do that. So kids are influenced by, they think that they being tall is amazing, being fair is what they need. No, I mean,
Mm.
so this is an amazing platform where people can learn. So yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. It's very beautiful to see people being real because we are talking about what real beauty is. Shuaib, I would like to ask you the same question as well, since you are of the same background. Do you have any thoughts into what you may have experienced?
Yeah, most definitely. Funnily, I myself quite recently had a question sent in from a kid on, Ayo, what can I do to grow tall? And sometimes you just want to reply bluntly, but I think it's also important to understand, like Cody said, it's not their fault, right?
Yeah.
It's not entirely their fault, and especially if you're a kid, right? An adult, we can say, all right, you can at least be a little bit more curious and at least probe into it a little bit more and understand that not everything is as it is shown on social media or on the media, right? But I want to come back to the point of empathy. Like Cody said, we need to understand that as people in the industry, we do have the responsibility, right, to put out what is right there, right? Now, and I also want to say that it's important not to do it in a way where you bash other people, right? Because our job is not to diss other coaches. Our job is not to make fun of other gyms or to point out that what they are doing is wrong. But you can simply do it by giving what is right? Give the research, show them the evidence, right? Tell them the truth, show them what's real, right? And coming back to your original question, I certainly do agree, as Cody does as well, that it affects men as well, right? It affects men as well. And I think it's a lot in line with many of the other issues that we face as a society. For example, when it comes to harassment, there is a lot of light being shed, a lot of There's rather a spotlight given on the harassment of women, right? But sometimes there's harassment that's happening to men, and even they don't know that that is harassment. They think I'm supposed to be a man and just, buckle myself up and just go through it, right? Because that is what society has been showing us and telling us. And the same applies for beauty, right? Men think that they need to be a certain shape, a certain size. And it's evident because we see that most people spend an unimaginable amount of time strengthening the components that are visible to others, as opposed to what is important. I'm sure Kodi can vouch for the importance of having a strong core, a strong lower body. But the thing is, a strong core can exist on a person who has a couple of layers of fat that's out there, and you cannot see their abdominal muscles. Their abdominal muscles might actually be way bigger than somebody who is a lower body fat percentage. But that does not mean that that person is stronger, right? Now, I know for a fact, I've seen what Kodi lifts, and it's not a joke. Right? And I've seen plenty of more people who might be more leaner, or I don't know, you may see more number of muscles on their body, to put it in very layperson terms, right? But I think the reason a lot of people pursue that, a lot of guys pursue having big chests, broader chests, the shoulders, is because those are very visible. They are very visible. And immediately in society, in the community, that gives you a sense of confidence. You feel like you're in control, right? And that you somehow command and dictate. And it's like, the previous panelists discussed about, if you're fair and if you're a particular body shape or size and your hair is a particular way, you could get an advantage when it comes to getting a job, right? Certain jobs, like say, for example, when companies hire receptionists, we know it's a known fact they look for somebody who has a physical appearance that is more pleasing to people who are going to be coming for inquiries, right? And it being right or wrong is one thing, but it exists. And because of the same reason, we see guys, men, kids wanting to, like Kodi said, grow taller, have broader shoulders, bigger chests, right? Biceps, whatnot. And like Kodi said, everybody is looking for the quick fix, right? And that is driven by the culture that we've created, right? The instant gratification that we get through social media, right? The convenience we get through Uber Eats or Pick Me, or the ability to search for what we want and get to know it right now on Google. That culture has been created. So it's only human for us to fall into the trap of thinking that lifestyle changes, physique changes, genetic changes can also happen like that. But it is not the case. Like Kodi said, it boils down to habits, lifestyles, the process, right? And I think that, summarizing what I said, yes, most definitely, it does exist for men as well. And I think that as adults, it is each person's responsibility to at least be curious, question the reality, right? And as people in the industry, people like Kodi, people like myself, other coaches in Sri Lanka, around the world, I think it's our responsibility to put this information out there to the community. So that is my little 2 cents on the topic.
Thank you for your little 2 cents. They were much greater than little, if I may say so. Speaking of these body standards that are kind of promoted and fed to us, all right? I would like to direct a question towards Nirosha, since she is in the industry and she is, of course, heading the industry if you take Sri Lanka as a whole. Right now, since the whole concept of Eurocentric beauty standards did come up, and the complexion and how it affects. All right, when it comes to the makeup industry, do you have any information that could benefit a person who is trying to move away from that line of thinking? Nirosha, you're on mute, by the way. I think you're on mute. Hi, Nirosha. I think you're on mute. And yeah, there we go. There we go. That's fine. There we go.
Nonsense. Anyway, so what I was trying to say was, when it comes to makeup, true, makeup is something that you accentuate your beauty, but it doesn't mean that it is compulsory for somebody to wear makeup. Now, I own a company that promotes makeup, but it doesn't mean that I would always tell everybody to wear makeup. It's your choice. Makeup is something that will not empower you. but it will neither give you confidence also. But it's your choice that if you want to look, I mean, like to enhance your beauty, yes, makeup would be a choice. It's just a choice. But besides makeup, if you want to be successful in the industry, if you want to pursue in your career, if you want to be somebody who wants to really take it to a next level, then there's so much more to yourself than having makeup, right? So this is a wrong interpretation when it comes to media, I would say. But then it's time to change. Yeah, makeup will give you that inner beauty, like for you to feel kind of nice, looking nice in the mirror and everything, but it doesn't really make you want to be the number one of something. There are so many things that goes along the way. Now, for me, for example, I don't necessarily wear makeup. If it is essential only. If I go for my meetings, I go for personal trainings, I go for so many other things without my makeup, with my own skin. So I mean, I'm happy to present myself the way I am rather than having my makeup. So sometimes people will always question me and say, hey, she owns a makeup brand, but she comes just like that. And I think to myself, so what? This is the way I am. I want the way I want to project myself to a certain level. I don't want people talking of me just because I wear makeup doesn't give me the confidence. So I would always say makeup is good. Makeup is something that any girl would love to have. It's something that will make you feel nice, but makeup is not the only thing in life.
That's true. There is a misconception where, if you wear makeup on, then that is the only time you can feel confident. I don't agree with that either. Yeah.
If I could, sorry, if I
Yeah,
could quickly
sure.
add, Nirosha, if you have anything else to.
No, this is what I think what we have to, what I think somebody said the same thing. Media is basically making because it's a very vast context. So like we are fighting against a huge platform against the conceptual values of what body beautiful is all about. So something like this should be always educated to people to say, okay, the conception has to be a differentiation of when it comes to beauty and what it really means.
Yes, Saritha, you had something to say.
Yeah, just because we are on the topic of makeup now, obviously I'm not the expert here, but as a user of makeup, I would just like to say, even this idea of going natural and loving our natural skin, I feel like the way social media, especially social media, is set up, and especially the way beauty constructs are set up, I feel like even that no makeup thing, that is still catering to only some people. So I, for example, genetically blessed with clear skin, right? Thank you, mother. But me going bare skin is very different from someone with eczema or acne scarring going bare skin. Me wearing makeup, people always say, oh, you don't even look like you're wearing makeup. But if someone with acne or eczema wears makeup to cover up their, skin condition, and then they take it off and it's like, oh, you look very different without makeup. But it's not a positive thing. It's always a negative thing. There's always that element of like, oh, this is false advertising, which gets thrown around a lot. So I think when we talk about makeup also, we need to, and the makeup, no makeup thing, I think we also need to be conscious of, are we privileged enough to go around with our makeup and not be questioned? Not in the sense of like Nirosha said, you get questioned because you work in the industry and you don't wear makeup. But I'm talking about where if you wear makeup, it's a can't without thing, right? Are we privileged enough to go in public without makeup and be perceived and be deserving of respect and dignity? Or do we see other people who are less privileged, who if they go without makeup, then it's a whole, oh, why don't they cover that up? And then if they go with makeup, it's like, this is false advertising. So there, I think we need to be very conscious that there is money to be made. there is money to be made. Let's be very honest. There's money to be made. There's comments to be passed. There's things to be capitalized off of. So I think in our discussion between the makeup, no makeup thing, I think we need to be also very conscious about our own biases and our own privileges when it comes to what makeup means to us. So
Well, I need to say something to that. I would say, as I think I always say, it's your choice. It's your choice that you either want to wear makeup or you don't want to wear makeup or anything else. So for me, it's my choice for me to not wear makeup. But if somebody feels that she's not gaining confidence if she's not wearing makeup, by all means you can do that. But that is what is being projected. Now, if you're trying to change this perception of you have to sort of eliminate all these things, then we have to think twice. Are we going to be the advocates to say, do what is right for you, not what is right for the others? So if somebody is saying, oh, you don't look nice, you have eczema and you don't look, no, then that is, if you're wearing the makeup just to please others, I don't agree. Right. But if you're wearing to please yourself, yes, I wholeheartedly say yes, go for it. But if you think, no, you're confident, you're not confident enough to go not wearing makeup because of the reason that I have eczema, or maybe I have some wrinkles, or maybe I have some pigmentations. If you feel you're doing it because you want to please the others, I think you have to think twice. So this is something that we have to really be. I think it's just the way that people have basically labeled the society. Women should be of this. Men should be of this biographic changes and something like that. So if we are really about it, then we have to think seriously as to how we should change it. So I always feel it is your choice. What we do is what we should do for ourselves. It is not for others. So makeup goes the same way.
That's very true. That's very true. I think there's a misconception when you wear makeup, people assume you're wearing it, to garner attention or to look like the best person in the room. But in reality, it should be something that you do for yourself. So with that, since we're coming to the topic of self-love, all right, and since we have discussed most of the problems, I'd like to look into the solutions as well, because I'm sure whoever is listening in would love to listen to what your opinions are as to what we can do about it. So in a world where we are constantly thrown advertisements where they promote lip injections and flash diets and all those things, all right, going to start with Danushka, because I think he will have to leave soon because it's almost 7 o'clock. So Danushka, if you may, please.
Because my work starts at 7:30, so I've got to make a move. Please kindly repeat the question.
All right. So the question is, how do you find a balance in a world where, at one end they're telling us that we should conform to this way, and then the other end there's staying true to who we are. Where do we find the middle ground?
All right. So I used to I always share my personal experiences. I used to work for an organization for like 4.5 years, and now I'm following my passion in coaching and training people and everything, and as a motivation speaker. But I told this to a bunch of very close people, including my own blood, and they were like, "What's the point of going to a gym? How are you gonna? Who's gonna pay you? Is that a job like that?" But like, it doesn't, for me personally, it doesn't matter to me what my family, my own blood, whoever, it really doesn't matter to me, because I've taken ownership of every decision I've taken. If you as a person, I know it's very, very hard to take ownership of your failures, because we all love to take ownership of our success stories. But when we fail, you always, I have done it. So I've done it. But we need to be strong enough to not we need to be strong enough to take ownership of our lives and be all right with every decision that we make. Even if we fail, we single-handedly take ownership of it. And not like just because someone says, it does not define who you are. I've failed my driving test twice, and I'm driving. I've got my license. I failed IELTS 4 times. I passed my IELTS again on the 5th. Before my O-level exam, my lecturers were like, you're gonna fail. I passed my O-levels. It does not, just because your failures, just because of your setbacks, it does not define you. Like doctors told me, I broke my left leg into three when in 2011. Doctors said, until you go into your grave, your leg is going to be weak. I don't think you won't even squat 150 kilos. But I'm not saying the respective professional people are wrong. It does not define what you want to do in life. I always speak, never let external forces tell you what to do. This is why media, like I've been criticized through media, from emails to Instagram posts to everything. Since I was a kid, we all face that. But we cannot let something external take over our lives and mess it up. We are all given a chance to find our purpose, not waste time finding another person's purpose. It is our duty to find our purpose in life. So balancing it out is all your ball game. You cannot blame to someone else. So what I would say is, people need to not forget. People need to stop giving energy to negative or external things, and focus on finding opportunities for yourself. During the pandemic, a lot of people were like, oh my God, my business is going to go messed up. Athletes were like, okay, I don't have a gym. How am I going to train? People were working out for days at home. Zoom. How did Zoom came? Like Zoom took over Skype out of nowhere. One of my friends are working for a company of hand sanitizers. Who thought hand sanitizers will have 2,500% profit? Hand sanitizers went off the roof. So it is up to you to take a situation and decide what you want to do. A pandemic or any chaos around you cannot define you or define who you want to be in the future. And I mean, look at the individuals here. The individuals here, the way they speak is just inspiring to me to listen, because it is information. So it is how you take this whole life. Life is a blessing. It is how you take it and how you move forward with it. So that's my word for your question. So yeah.
Thank you for that. Thank you so much for that, because I feel like that's very important, where you don't let external factors kind of validate you or tell you what you should be doing.
And also there was, I don't know, the question.
All right, moving on. I would like to pose the same question towards Kalpani as well. Yeah, sorry, go on. I think that's a small
for
lag.
the second question, where how males have issues with this whole thing. I think the second question you asked. In Sri Lanka, there was a research done. I just found it on my phone actually. It's a research which was done. Four are more likely to kill themselves than women in Sri Lanka. Men are 4 times for just suicide rates and depression rates. There might be an effect because of these certain cases also. This is why these kind of platforms are important, because it is important to educate the future. So, yeah, just want to say that.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for sharing that piece of information. And it is true. Suicide rates are much higher in men. And I feel like the body standards that are thrown and, shoved down their throats kind of does have a part to play in this. Will you be keeping on the conversation, because it is 7 o'clock?
No, I gotta go, guys.
Okay, all right.
Thank you so much for having me. So grateful for the opportunity. Take care and keep doing good things.
Thank you, Cody.
Thank you so
Take
much.
care.
Bye.
There's a question. I think I need to answer this. Otherwise, there'll be a confusion in what I just want to correct what I.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. What is the question? Hold on. Let me just check the question.
It's do you think the ability to make choices?
Right.
Yeah.
Privilege.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. All right. Yeah. Yeah. Sure. Go ahead.
I would like to say I just want to correct myself just to make things clear. Things like eczema, things like acne, things like other malfunctions in the skin. Now I don't say just ignore them. Those are health issues, right? In order to cover up a health issue, if you're trying to cover it up with a makeup or skincare product, then that's a wrong impression. Then basically this is the whole concept of wrong advertising, right? If you say your cosmetic will just it's a temporary thing. So if you feel that your choice of repairing your skin, taking care of your skin is essential, right? It just like, because if you just, I mean, if somebody says that you have too much of acne, then that's a health issue. Then you have to really take medical advice and take care of it. But that is your choice. That is what you have to do to maintain, make sure that your health is not hampered. So what I meant to say was like things like makeup are what you want. If you want to feel nice, if you want to look nice, no, I'm not saying, because if you feel confident in your own skin, and also if you feel confident in your makeup, then that's fine. But if you think, no, I don't look presentable, because of that I'm wearing makeup, then that's a different choice. So you have to really think deep to say, okay, if you really want to wear makeup to please anybody else, or I just want to make you happy with yourself, like looking nice with a nice I mean, when you introduce new lipsticks, we love to go and try a new lipstick. It's just to please yourself, not to please anybody else. So this is what I want to make. My point has to be very clear, because I'm telling everybody not to do things just because you want to please the audience. It is to please yourself. So if you kind of have certain issues, then you have to take care of it, because that is taking care of your health is important for you. But not because your mom says so, your husband says so, your boyfriend says so. It's just because you need to do it. So that is what I want to say, because it says it. I mean, this is what they ask, like, if it's the society giving you to work with the choice, with your choice. Yeah, this is what we have to correct. If you like it, then the society has to accept up the way we are.
I guess it's about being aware of what is thrown into is not always the right form of action, and doing right by you, like you said.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you for that clarification. Just to move back to where we were, Kalpani, I was directing the question towards you on finding the balance. If you may, please proceed.
Thanks. Self-love. I'm going to build on what Saritha was saying, what Nirosha was saying, and what Tanushka was saying as well. As Saritha said, and I think even as the question said, there is a notion of privilege, and even self-love is being packaged and sold to us, right? Accept yourself, accept your skin. Yeah, you can do that if you have clear skin, if you're lucky. I mean, there is a factor of ableism in this conversation as well. I mean, what type of bodies do we see in media? What do we consider beautiful or even normal or even acceptable? And is it a health situation? I mean, I have lupus, which is a hidden disability. I have psoriasis, I have eczema, I have all of these things going on where doctors don't know why it's happening. And should it not be accepted? I mean, we have movements where it says acne positivity, just like body positivity. And that's something that Saritha was speaking of. And I think, so that's a part where we need to move away from how much power do we have in order to accept ourselves when we are part of a system. If I lived in a vacuum, or if I lived away from society where these notions are not told to me, and I'm not working within a system, like what Saritha and a couple of other people also touched upon and elaborated upon, it is a currency. There's money involved. My job may be on the line as to how I look, my marriage prospects, the kind of children that I have, whether my parents are taken care of, whether my younger brother goes to college or not, might be dependent on what I look like. If I decide to rock up to work with my curly hair, which is, it's quite large, with no makeup, I would be fired for being unpresentable, unprofessional. So I think we need to unpack those situations, and like what Danushka was saying as well, let's take mental health. Do we have a 100% solution for it? Is it here, take some medication, here, go to this therapist, and now you're fine? No, people are talking about it because these are very, very complicated, intersecting issues, because one thing is building upon the other. If we had easy solutions, we wouldn't be here having this panel. We wouldn't be talking about it in the day and age where, the bunch of us don't even have to be in the same, postcode. We are having these conversations. We have all of these people, and yet we're discussing rudimentary things as to how we look like, what body I was born in, or what I have, and my human value is being judged upon that. So where I would put focus on is not what the individual can do, because for me, the individual is powerless to within the larger system. Obviously, you have control over what you can, manage. For example, if it's not an if situation. So with lupus, there's no cure for it, right? And if I am being told we can only manage your symptoms, we don't know how long you have to live, then it is my choice as to how I approach life, because I have the ability to control my mentality, maybe seek mental help in the sense of a psychologist or a psychiatrist. But again, privilege, right? I have the ability to go and see the psychologist. I have the ability to go and get that medication because I have the socioeconomic background in order to do that. So does everybody have access to these opportunities? Then we have to look at the larger system, because as a collective, we have a responsibility, like what Danushka was saying, like what Shuaib was saying. As a collective, then what are we promoting? If as a collective we are going to go down that route, then we have to look at legally what is accepted, what sort of advertising is accepted, what are the hiring practices, what do we see on media, what do we say is acceptable between conversations, what is polite conversation, what is workplace harassment. If you're told wear high heels and come to work, where does that fall in? Is that gender discrimination? Do we have HR taking that into account? But then again, if HR decides that this is how women should look like, this is our company policy, go and take it up against a labor tribunal. And you can't do that because you don't have the money to go, either you don't have the money to find legal recourse, or you simply require that job. So the thing is, like, for me, looking at things in isolation is not going to give us solutions. And I think that's why we have these panels, because we need to unpack all of these issues.
Yes, honestly, that is, personally, as an individual who has been, I'd say, targeted by such conglomerates, I'd say it's very disheartening, because I know that sometimes you have no control, like you said. So thank you for saying that, and thank you for bringing that point up. Before we move on, there is a question that is directed towards Saritha, which says, because you spoke of capitalism part in this, what is your impression of the fact that things like fitness lifestyles and makeup and the ability to do what you want to feel nice and be confident all play into the capitalist way of thinking? And I think it's the same person who has also added saying, how does all of this play into our intersectional identities and the choices and privileges we may hold as individuals? I think we did cover most of this, but Saritha, if there's anything else you'd like to add on to this, please go ahead.
Let me just read the question because I process information better when I read.
Of course.
Right. So obviously, I'm not the fitness expert here, but I will say a thing or two about lifestyles, because, and I think Kalpanee rightfully brought this up, where even when we talk about beauty standards and even when we talk about body positivity, and people who want to, who really do mean well, kind of get it wrong when they disseminate this lifestyle of what body positivity should be, right? And I think that is where, you know how they say the road to hell is paved with good intentions. So despite the best of intention, if you are still kind of selling this idea that there is one specific lifestyle to follow to be body positive, or there's a few you can choose from, where it doesn't take into account stuff like mental health, right? Economic class, social class, whether you can afford such a lifestyle. Like, can you afford to lose weight? Can you afford to get help for your mental illness so that you can actually have the motivation to exercise? I have clinical depression, and some days I wake up not wanting to do anything, right? So that to me, I remember for the longest time I blamed myself for being lazy, and that's why I gained weight, when really it was a mental health issue. So I think when we, like Kalpanee said, when you look at things in isolation, you kind of miss out on the bigger picture of how of understanding what exactly we are sold and how much do we buy into it. So like I said, if you look up the body positivity hashtag on Instagram, you will 100% see a lot of white bodies, like bodies that look the same, with a slice of cake maybe in their perfectly lit, white interior apartments with fairy lights and these plants and ferns. And I think about all of the bodies that are effaced from this movement, that are erased from this movement, who will look at this and think, okay, this is the way to be body positive. The reason I am unhappy is because I cannot emulate this lifestyle, right? So I think when we talk about body positivity and promoting body acceptance, rather, this is the term I prefer, body acceptance. I really do think we need to be conscious of what exactly we are promoting. You can promote eating cake and still being happy in your body, but you should also maybe think about people who have a slice of cake and feel guilty about it for the entire day, right? So there are things to think about, especially I would say economic class and our gender identities really do play into how these things affect us differently. I hope that kind of answers your question, because our identities are very much intersectional, and choice is not as straightforward as you might think, because choice is influenced by what choices can we make. We can't make all the choices we want to. There's certain choices that are out of your control. So
yeah, of course, that is true. That is something that people tend to kind of misconceive, I'd say. There is another question, and I think Shuaib might be the perfect person to answer this one. So it says, when people conflate weight, body size, and health together with human value, do you think this is detrimental of empowerment that is supposed to come from things like exercise and fitness? Can you see the question?
My, I will have to break that question down.
Go ahead.
Okay. Where is this? The one at the top. Okay. Sorry. What does conflate mean? If anybody can tell me what conflate means.
it means you kind of mix up everything so that you don't see them as individual. So you kind of confuse one with the other, and you mix up the meaning so that they kind of all mean the same thing when they don't.
Okay, right. Okay. Do you think this is detrimental to the idea of empowerment that is supposed to come from things like exercise and fitness? Right. So I'm not really sure if the person asking the question is saying that empowerment should come through exercise and fitness. But the word empowerment is very broad. And how I generally approach anybody is telling them that empowerment really depends on what you're trying to achieve. For example, if you are an executive who is working in a workplace where your knowledge is excellent, your knowledge is quite thorough, you're very skillful, but your communication skills are weak, right? Your communication skills are weak. And because of that, though you have all these brilliant ideas going on in your mind, when you get a short window of opportunity to present yourself, you are unable to make the most of it because of a language barrier that you're having, not because you are somebody who is incompetent to do the job or carry out the task, right? And I always approach empowerment in that sense. And that is why I'm a huge advocate. And this is something I learned through personal experience, is always pay attention to what is it that matters to you, right? What is it? Because even, there's this quote by Robin Sharma where he says, even the longest of lives is a short one, right? And in that space, there's no time to be pleasing everybody and everything. So you really need to understand, at least to a reasonable extent, what are you trying to achieve, right? What are you trying to achieve? In order for you to achieve that, what are the skill sets you need to have, right? Because at the end of the day, achievements, goals, right? They're just an outcome. They're an outcome. In order to achieve a particular goal or outcome, you need to have a set of skills, right? How do you develop skills? Daily actionable habits, right? That's how you break down a goal to a daily action, right? So for me, be it if this person is asking about empowering yourself, I don't think you need to restrict it to exercise, right? Or health and fitness. I believe health and fitness and exercise is a massive component in empowering you for anything, right? For anything, because if you do not have good physical, mental, emotional health, right? All of which are heavily influenced and affected and managed and regulated by, I don't want to even say exercise, but regular movement, balanced diet, good rest and recovery. It gets really difficult, right? It gets really difficult to achieve whatever it is that you are trying to achieve, even though being a better CEO, right, in terms of your ability to call shots at a company doesn't have everything to do with your health and wellness. Your health and wellness affects the quality of what you put out there, right? So I think exercise, diet, nutrition is a massive component. That's why I dedicate each and every day of my life serving this industry. But when it comes to empowerment, what I think is you need to empower yourself with the skills that you need in order to achieve the goals that you want to achieve. So I really hope that clarified that. If not, please do ask a follow-up question. I'll be happy to clarify.
Thank you for that. Thank you. I knew you would know exactly how to answer that particular question. All right. So now that we've answered most of the Q&As, I need to get back into my original. Sorry, did someone say something? Yeah.
Yes, me.
Yeah.
Sorry. I think when we lost you, there was a question that went as answered because we read it out, but we never really tackled it.
Right.
It says
Right.
it's the one about performativity. So I just wanted to point that out.
Right. All right. So I'm not sure exactly where this question is. Hold on.
I think it was the very first question. Are we going back to the
Yes.
the self-love thing, or are we moving on?
We can start with this. If we could go with this question then. All right. So how do you believe we address the performativity versus real activism if it gets at least something done? Is there anyone who's willing to tackle this question?
I'll take a jab at it.
Go for it.
Yeah. So on a scale, I mean, it's not my area of expertise, but you can look it up when it comes to behavioral sciences or people who do analyze how activism work. I mean, before social media, social causes, or if you look at suffragette movement or whatever it is, people have analyzed how change occurs. And performative behavior, to an extent, can signal what is in vogue, and it might have a positive effect. But where we start losing things, especially in a day and age where, like Saritha said, everything is media. You are a media broadcaster, I'm a media broadcaster, there's micro influencers, nano influencers, everybody is an influencer technically, because our sphere of influence now is much larger than it was 10 years ago. So in that understanding, then does performative activism, which is merely, I don't like the term virtue signaling, but it's merely putting a message out there without actually looking deeper into the problem, does it do more harm than good? Now, on an individual level, I personally, other than trying to educate, so if I see a friend or somebody I have a one-on-one relationship, or if it's an open forum, for example, like Twitter, if it's something I can take part in, then I would weigh in. If I feel like somebody is putting something out there where I may have an academic understanding or a lived in experience where I can add something of value, I would engage that person. But on an individual level, do I hold people accountable? No, because it's a difficult thing, right? A lot of people said, intersectionality. At the end of the day, it's my favorite word these days, because we have to understand that, you know, my education is not your education. Let me. My background is not your background. My ability to speak in, let's say, English is not something that a lot of people would have. Then again, so then what access to information do you have? If you take literature, if I am following social media, most of this conversation, if you take the last couple of months, is taking place in English and it's not taking place in Sinhala or Tamil. So then thus what am I exposed to? So do I hold those people accountable? No. What I would be critical about and what I am critical about in my practice is people who should know better. So conglomerates, businesses who have the resources, who have the ability to spend money to understand these issues, then I do hold them accountable for virtue signaling or performative activism, because it needs to go beyond that. Because if not, you're hoodwinking the customer, you're misleading the public, and it is a disservice, it is a moral issue, then it is something that we can engage with. So I think that's my job there.
I think that was very perfectly tackled, because I couldn't agree more with you. And I feel like I feel like intersectionality is getting the prominence that it deserves, because it just goes to show that sometimes you cannot dictate what another person is going through, because their situation is not your situation. So that is a very, very important topic I think everyone should be aware of. So thank you for that. Thank you so much for that. And also, so going back to finding a balance between, whether we give in to these societal pressures or whether we stay true to who we are. I think we tackled the question with Danika and Nirosha, if I'm not mistaken. So, Saritha, is there anything that you'd like to say on this?
Actually, so much. I will try to keep it short given the time. So when we talk
Yes,
about
please.
this love yourself thing, don't get me wrong, man, as a young kid, as a kid who struggled a lot with body image and getting stretch marks at 14 because I had PCOS but didn't know what PCOS was, I really bought into this love yourself thing. But it took me until my 20s to realize love yourself is just the beauty industry version of the neoliberal construct of pull yourself by your bootstraps. If you try hard enough, you'll make it. The thing with this whole love yourself is, first of all, it's preached by a lot of women, especially women, who are already the ideal body standard. So Jamila Jamil, Alicia Keys, like, don't get me wrong, I love these women. But it is easy for them to say love yourself. Second of all, by insisting you love yourself, I think where we lose the point is when people get frustrated when they are incapable of loving themselves. And I don't mean that people are incapable in the literal sense. What I mean in the sense, you go in front of your mirror every morning and you just don't like what you see. And sometimes you can't change that, because sometimes a lot of people have medical conditions where you can't change that, right? You might be differently able and you cannot change certain things about yourself. These we need to accept. So I think with love yourself, it really kind of pushes you into this kind of spiral where you are told, or you have to love all of you unconditionally. And then when you fail to be able to do it, then you kind of feel bad about yourself. You really do feel bad about yourself. And I found myself in that spiral. It took me a long time to get out of that. And I think this connects really well to what Kalpanee said about how instead of thinking on an individual level, it helps if we think on a collective level. So I'm reminded of this awesome tweet by No Name, one of my favorite people of all time. She says, "I find power in my collective." And I'm also reminded of a quote by Audre Lorde, Black feminist philosopher, who said, "I am not free until all women are free. And it doesn't matter if their shackles are different to mine." And I think that applies so well to when we talk about beauty standards, because I think love yourself really, this love yourself and self-love really focuses on the individual. And we all know that capitalism and neoliberal kind of construction society also tells you to focus on the individual. What can you do for yourself instead of what can I do for my community, for my collective, right? So I think balance is perhaps the wrong, not even the wrong word. I think instead of balance, I would suggest the word purpose. How do you, as someone struggling to love yourself, struggling to find struggling to love yourself, struggling to accept yourself, how do you find purpose? Because purpose really takes our attention away from focusing too much on the things we can't change about ourselves, right? So I think we need to recognize that under capitalism, unless you're a cis white man, you are sometimes the oppressor, you are sometimes the oppressed, right? You are both. And I think on a first basis, you need to understand the times when you are the oppressor. How do what you say negatively affect someone else? While also accepting the times when you are the oppressed, when you are the one discriminated against, right? And on a second level, do not make it about ego. Don't make it about self. My advice would be don't make it about self, because ego destroys. Because then you will only be focused on the things you can't change about yourself. Instead, I would suggest you divert your energy elsewhere. Focus on activists, and I mean actual like activists who are from the grassroots, right? Who have a messaging based on their lived experiences, right? And also activists, meaning these are people from the grassroots who also need this movement the most. I think that is how we recognize between performativity and actual activism, right? And learn about things like medical discrimination, the diet industrial complex, how racism in the beauty industry, and really get worked up about things like detox teas and how vast the diet industrial complex is, how vast the beauty industrial complex is. Get worked up about these things, right? Focus your energy there. Focus your energy on dismantling structures that affect all of us differently, but at the same time. They affect us differently, but they still affect us, right? So always widen your scope. Get into the deeper nitty-gritties. Like I think I thought about this when Sri Lanka was all of a sudden up in arms about Fair and Lovely and colorism, and rightfully so. But I think people kind of fail to question why colorism is so pervasive in Sri Lanka. Who is the largest consumer of Fair and Lovely and why, right? Where's the class-based analysis to this? Colorism, it's based in anti-Blackness. I didn't quite see people focusing on those things, but instead it was on the self. Oh, I was discriminated because I'm darker. And that is I think badly channeled anger and frustration. Your anger and frustration is valid, but it matters where you channel that. And I think for me personally, I think the best thing you can do if you're struggling and you need to find balance is ask why. Why should I love myself? It's because I have to love my community. I have to care about community. I am as powerful as my collective. So I will leave it there. I think balance, another word truly would be like it would have to be, where do you channel your energy? So
that was so beautiful. I love how you brought up the perspective of channeling your frustrations towards something better. And I think that is something a lot of people can do, focusing on the collective and not backing down from
if
that.
I may add, I think focusing on the collective and thinking of it as a collective issue also stops us from looking at it with these isolated lenses, as looking at it as, oh, I am discriminated because I am fat and that person is discriminated because they are dark skinned. Instead, think of it as, I am discriminated because of the same structure this other person is discriminated against. How do these things intersect? What can we talk about? What conversations can we have in common that will help us both? So have conversations with your community. Please talk about these things with your community. Get mad about the right things. Because the more you stand in front of a mirror and you're sad about how you look, this is how I deal with it on the mornings I don't feel great. If I ever feel sad, I'm like, I can't be this, because if I'm sad, there's some rich white man profiting off of my frustration somewhere. And I don't want to, I don't want to give them that privilege. I don't want to give them that. So focus your energy, try to focus your energy on community, I would say.
Yes, and that, like you said, does give yourself a sense of purpose. And yeah, that was just so beautifully said, honestly. All right, so I think we've discussed that part of things. I think we're almost at the end of the session, but before we end things, I do have the final question, which I think is what will wrap everything up. So, when it comes to loving yourself, I think we already discussed most of it, but if there's anything else that you believe needs to be added into this, what do you think is the first step towards self-love? If Nirosha would just start on this, if there's anything you'd want to add. I think you're on mute again, by the way.
I just wanted to say, I was listening to Saritha's interpretation on how we should love yourself. I think she's absolutely correct. And I had this opportunity to meet this beautiful lady who, she's a model. I think you all know Chantal, who's with Vertiglow. She had this, she was at a forum, and where she was talking about how she emerged into becoming a fashionista and then a model. And we only knew her when she came into the limelight. And then, but before that, her episode has been very, very sad and very, very frustrating. Just as everybody else agrees that through loving herself, she basically emerged to be what she is now. So you have to really focus on what you want to be in the future. So I think your energy should be focused on you, loving you. And then I think all the hatred that comes towards you can be sort of funneled into loving yourself, and then it can remold into something good, something positive within you. So I agree with her. I think she basically covered everything. So what I would say is that not everybody is blessed with everything, but you're blessed with something in life, and you need to focus on that. And you have to really because everybody has something or other to be sad of. There are so many discrepancies. We are not perfect when it comes to life. So but you have to be happy with what you have got, and you have to really focus on what you should do with your life, and love it, and so that it can be positive towards you. So, and I always say, do not do things to please others, do things to please yourself. Do what is right for you, not what is right for the others. Yeah, that's what
Yeah.
I see, loving yourself.
Yeah, I think, like you said, without fretting on what you don't have, sometimes it's important to focus on what you do and cultivate that. So that is a very beautiful way of looking at it. Thank you. Shuaib, is there anything else that you would like to say on the concept of loving yourself?
I think, in all honesty, the panelists did share quite a lot of information that I felt was quite relevant and on point. And while I do agree with it 100%, maybe I can try and add value from a different angle. I think in our lives, beauty aside, everything, right? When we look at everything, it is very easy to get caught up with the little things, right? Because unfortunately, everyone around us, every medium around us is very good at occupying our mind space, right? You know how when, I mean, people who do social media marketing would tell you, like, even when it comes to stories, the reason they post so many times is they want to be within those first few stories that pop up on your Instagram feed, right? Because they're all fighting for that mind space. It's the same, you know, even with marketing in general, right? You know, people are fighting for shelf space, people are fighting for, you know, visibility, stories, whatnot, everything, right? And what you need to understand is when you wake up in the morning, you wake up with a full tank, right? A full tank of focus. You wake up with a full tank of willpower, and so many other tanks, right? And as you move through your day, these resources begin to deplete, right? They begin to deplete. And of course, how well they are charged are dependent on your lifestyle and how well you slept and what you ate and all of that. But they begin to deplete. So I think you need to be very clear on what you spend those fuels on, right? If you're going to wake up in the first thing in the morning, and use your tank of willpower or your ability to make decisions to think, what am I going to do now? I think that's a big waste of your time. You should have already decided that the night before, right? Because that is such a trivial decision for you to make. And I think it's little things like that. And then you unlock your phone and you go into social media and you've got hundreds of different messages coming your way, signaling, telling you what's right, the ideal body type, the ideal food, the ideal outfit, the ideal job, you know. And even when it comes to things like find your purpose, find your passion, there's so much of pressure to find purpose, to find passion and whatnot. And I think that the first step to finding inner beauty, any beauty or anything that you want, is first tuning out from the noise around you and tuning in to what's within, right? In nutrition, we talk about learning to read your hunger cues, right? If you really think about it, how many things do you put in your mouth in order to serve your body as opposed to feed your cravings, right? Or to give in to certain temptations that you might have. And we can blame marketing, we can blame media, we can blame the people around us, we can blame society, we can blame companies to a certain extent, right? Let's not behave irresponsibly. Let's not take an approach where we completely pin it on other people, right? We have a brain. We've been given the ability to think, talk, at least most of us, if not in some form or way, right? Technologies at our disposal, resources are available. Make an effort, right? Make an effort for you to understand and differentiate what is right, what is wrong, right? And as much as possible, try to stay, and I think Saritha mentioned this, try to stay true to your purpose, right? Try to stay true to your purpose. Because when you're focusing on something that is a lot broader, or something that is to do with the larger perspective of life, as opposed to the everyday little battles that you face, it makes it a lot easier for you to have the right perspective, to take the right decisions, which will lead to you achieving that long-term vision, that long-term purpose that you want to be. But there's one other element to it. And again, Saritha mentioned this. And that is service. Right? That is service. Simon Sinek always says, you find plenty of books on self-help and self-development. Where are the books on others' help and others' development, right? Meaning, where's the part that we're teaching people? It talks so much about improving your health, improving your understanding, your purpose, your clarity in life, understanding, whatever it might be, even beauty, accepting yourself. But what about us as human beings, creatures designed by the Creator to live together as a community, right? And let's not forget that being a part of community is a massive component. Deep, meaningful relationships are a massive component of actual happiness, actual contentment. So what are we doing to address these areas? So I'd like to leave on that note and summarize it by saying that how I choose to go about beauty, health, fitness, or whatever is first get very granular and crystal clear on what I want to achieve, what is important to me, to my purpose, my reason for even being alive. Why am I alive, right? And then what do I need, right? What do I need to serve that purpose? And as long as I'm need to achieve those, as long as I am giving every ounce of me and making an effort, that's where I derive my content and happiness from the process, like I said at the very beginning. So I like to end on that.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I personally feel really empowered when, right after listening to everything that you said. I do have to mention that Nirosha has to leave now. So thank you, Nirosha, so much for being here. And it's been a pleasure, an absolute pleasure.
Thank you. Take care, guys.
All right.
Bye.
Take care. See you.
Bye.
And we're almost at the end of the session. Just a final note from Kalpani and Saritha, and I think we should be done with this really, really informative session that I personally feel so moved by. So, Kalpani, do you have anything else you'd like to add on? Or Saritha, please go on.
I did see a question that I wanted to answer. Is that okay? If I can quickly tackle it. Do
Yeah,
fashion
sure.
shows and beauty contests reinforce
Hmm.
beauty standards and contribute to discrimination of those who fail to meet the standards? Should they even be allowed to take place? Um, but going back, the question on self-love, building on what Saritha said, what Shuaib said, what Nirosha said, Tanushka as well, adding on to that, what I do is, yes, I acknowledge, like Nirosha said, I have certain privileges that other people don't. I'm not discriminated, or I'm not disadvantaged under every lens. What is purpose? What is collectivism, etc. But one more thing that I would like to add to all of that is that we are worthy, forgetting whether, all of these other components to us, just the person, each and every one of us is worthy. And that's where that love comes from. And that's where, at the end of the day, my fire comes from, because I'm like, I too deserve, just like any other human being, to be entitled or to be happy in life or to be content in life. But then again, we have to deal with reality and understand that that is not the situation. So then I will try and do what I can within my power to try and change it, not just for myself, but for other people. Because for me, individualism has no purpose. So I agree with Saritha. It's through that collective channel that I find my purpose, where I do things to make things better for everyone, or at least from a limited understanding for my peers or for my community. Going into this question, which I find very interesting, and also given, that's what I do, right? I mean, I earn money out of being a model. And like Saritha said, I may be the problematic factor in one lens, because does seeing my body, does seeing my face, my features in the media, does it make somebody else feel bad who may not have my body type? What do beauty pageants offer us? And what I want to add to that is the fact that as women, we are negotiating space all the time. We are negotiating the power to be seen. And like what Shuaib was saying, we're negotiating for attention. We don't get to just take it or buy it as a disadvantage, in the sense, I think Saritha was saying, unless you're cisgendered, heterosexual, and you're white, and you happen to be in America, most of us are going through some form of oppression or the other. It's acting upon us. And what beauty pageants in this day and age offer you is space. Because yes, it may be through, let's say, a male lens or the male gaze that you're seen as beautiful, but then you get $25,000, you get media attention. What do you do with it? And women do go ahead and feed their families with that money. Some of them may be morally asking changes. And when it comes to me, to appear on media, it's literally a mission of my life. I'm like, if I can be in there, and if you can put me, or if you can put someone else that I know, I'm there. I will fight for that. Because at the end of the day, I'm tall, I'm slim, but I may also be brown. So seeing me might help somebody. But what I wouldn't be doing is hog all of that space and hog all of that opportunity just for myself. I would pass the mic. I would ensure that once I have that inroad, that I'm creating space for other people. So I think that's my answer to that question. I don't think it's inherently bad. Yes, there is a negative to all of this, but this is where I try to carve out space. This is where I see a way forward.
I guess it depends on what actions you are willing to take. And if you are working with the betterment of a collective in mind, chances are that the road will get better as you go along. Thank you so much for sharing that. But unfortunately, I think we have come to the end of this session because we are almost out of time now. So I just want to say thank you so much for everyone for being here and for taking time to be here. We've always been almost spent 2 hours speaking about this. And I personally feel very much empowered by this conversation. And I'm pretty sure whoever's listening in as well just feels so great right now. And they know that there is always hope when it comes to feeling very self-critical. So like just I just want to put that out there, that these kind of conversations is something that I personally believe in as well. And to whoever's listening in, like most of the panelists spoke about today, try to help your collective and find your purpose through helping others, and that way you can also find purpose and help yourself in the long run. So big thanks to Shuaib and Kalpani and Saritha and Danushka as well as Nirosha. And that'll be all, I guess.
Thanks for having me,
Thank
guys.
you, and thank you
Thank you
everyone.
for having
Thank you
us.
so much.
Yeah.
Have a good day.
You too.
You too.